Hello and welcome to the Islamic Finance Weekly. As the year 2021 takes shape, nations are racing to recover from the adverse shock of the COVID-19 pandemic on their respective economies. Developed nations have rolled out massive bailouts or relief funds to kickstart their economies, support households and businesses, while low-income countries and some of the emerging market economies are still at risk. Islamic finance has been described as a robust alternative source of financing to support economies that need stabilization through instruments like Sukuk, Halal, Waqf, amongst others. In this edition of the Islamic Finance Weekly Show, I'll be discussing Islamic finance, economic empowerment and financial inclusion with my guest, Ifeoluwa Dixon, Head Fixed Income, FBNQuest Asset Management. Good afternoon, Ifeoluwa, and thank you for joining us on this episode as we learn more about Islamic finance and economic stabilization.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the program.
A lot has been said about Islamic finance as a viable alternative source of financing globally. From your perspective amidst the economic uncertainties fueled by COVID, what role can Islamic finance play in supporting economic stabilization in nations like Nigeria?
Thank you so much for that question. And in a way, you've done justice with the introduction about what has happened in global economies due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we saw shutdowns of economies across the world. And that in a way led to global economic activities. And we saw most governments also introducing various policies and the massive stimulus programs. And if you then translate that to what Islamic finance can actually do, is that to help the government as well, and also to stabilize economy like nations like Nigeria. Three things come to my mind. One is to channel finance, which is funds to real sector. And the real sector, is infrastructure that accounts for growth, economic growth in the nation. When the economy grows, then what happens? You see stability. And when I say channeling funds, then it has to do with investors and the investing public as well. A good example will be FBNQuest Asset Management, where your funds allow funds are deployed to real sector, health sector, education, could be transportation. You're looking for real sector that can bring about growth in the economy. Another way as well is increasing financial sector participation. And by that, you're deepening the financial landscape by attracting new category of clients and introducing new sets of products to the market. And to my study would be increasing capital flow. Increasing capital flow will be participation of capital market operators in the Islamic finance, broaden that space, encouraging financial inclusion and the likes. That is the role that Islamic finance can play in stabilizing the economy.
Definitely, Ifeoluwa. The main focus of Islamic finance is for the well-being of the society, as you've mentioned, education, and to fund the real sector for the economy. Thank you so much for those perspectives. All right, let's quickly look at how Islamic finance can create a positive impact in supporting households and businesses which align with Sharia principles. What can you say are the avenues for increasing awareness on the opportunities in the non-interest finance market in 2021 and beyond?
So to start with, I would like to demystify certain myths around Islamic finance. One is it's not just for those that align their thoughts of businesses towards Sharia principles. Islamic finance is meant for Muslims and non-Muslims, and I would say in general, for anyone that believes in ethical investing, Islamic finance is a go-to for such a person. And so a way to increase awareness is to continue to demystify the myth. Another myth that comes to my mind will be the myth around Islamic finance product or services does not pay or receive interest. It's not called interest because interest on its own is riba. or it pays returns or rentals, as the case may be. Another way to increase that would be awareness through a program of like yours, what you're doing presently. You are increasing awareness of Islamic finance to the investing public, is to create awareness, and through components would come to mind again with the conferences, seminars, and news. When you increase these components, obviously investing public get to know more about Islamic finance, and that would increase the depth of the market. Uses of technology as well is another means. Direct engagement with local people, within your circles, sharing knowledge within your circles, and collaboration with community leaders in these aspects will help us.
Thank you very much, Ifeoluwa. We are in the age of the fourth industrial revolution. Give us further insight on how the Islamic finance ecosystem can leverage digital technology to deepen its mandate of financial inclusion and economic empowerment.
Great question. So I'll start with, taking it step by step. The Islamic finance ecosystem. That's the financial institutions, the regulators, the investing public as well. So that's the ecosystem. And then how do you then leverage digital technology? And in a way, it's just by introducing digital delivery of products and services in order to help make Islamic finance grow. And so another aspect will be collaborations with fintechs. We collaborate with fintechs as well to deepen the market. And we do product initiatives offering ethical financial solutions across diverse areas, such as delving into newer growth areas like green, ethical, and environmentally friendly development projects. Also, in delivering your product, what comes to my mind will be the Zakat. When you're doing your introduction, you mentioned Waqf. Your Waqf, your Sadaqah, can be introduced on the technology into the Islamic finance through the analysis of how the wealth is to be shared with others, when do the donation occur, and who is the beneficiary, and what is being shared. So by and large, in all of this is the partnership with fintechs that will go a long way in delivering digital solutions to the Islamic finance world.
Yes, deepening technology, the Islamic banks and non-interest finance window really need to work with the Fintech Association of Nigeria in order to deepen this market. And it will be okay for you to see a situation where you can even make the transaction on your smartphone, like allow transaction with smartphone on anything you want to do. Some of Nigeria's leading investment banking groups have rolled out innovative Islamic finance products, including FBNQuest. What are the opportunities for investors in Nigeria who tap into instruments like Alal and Sukuk?
So you mentioned two things: opportunities in Alal and Sukuk. So Alal is investing in Sharia compliance products or services. That is what Alal. So it's a process of making investment decisions that are in line with Islamic principles. Sukuk, on the other hand, is Sharia compliant financial certificate, which entitles the holder to an undivided ownership in a particular asset. And so the opportunity, Sukuk, I will see it as an instrument. Alal on its own is the practice. Now, so what are the opportunities that Alal will give to an investor? Alal will give to an investor investing in an ethical way or Sharia compliant way. One is diversification of the portfolio, diversification of the risk as well, and also there is transparency and accountability. When you speak of Alal, transparency and accountability is so key, because you as an investor, you have the right to ask the person investing on your behalf what the house is doing with your fund, right? Because of the transparency element of it. Your fund is meant to be tied to a particular asset, unlike the conventional world where you give your money and you care less. But when you bring it into the allowed world, Islamic finance world, you as an investor as well, you have the right to know what your fund is being deployed into, to be sure that it's deployed in an ethical way or in a Sharia compliant way. And transparency, because the house, the investing company as well, would need to show you what they've done, the profits earned, so that both of you, the investor and the investor, can then share the profit or the loss as the case may be. I mentioned diversification as well. Aside the traditional asset classes, Islamic finance will open door for alternative investments. Islamic finance, people trade finance, people do commodities, people do agriculture, which is part of commodities, leasing as well, that some conventional mutual funds would not allow you to do. You have that element when you invest in an allowed, or when you invest in an allowed mutual fund or allowed portfolio managed separately that is on the mutual fund. And like I mentioned, lastly, the diversification of risk, because you are not the only one. The investor is not the only one bearing the risk, like the conventional mutual fund or conventional normal investing would do. In this case, it's both you, the house, the issuer or the borrower, and the investor that would share in the profit and the risk as well. So in a way, it has safeguarded the investor's risk. So instead of 100% risk, we are sharing it 50-50, or as you have agreed, which again is the same way your return will be shared as well. So by and large, Islamic finance will give you opportunities for diversification, transparency, and accountability, which is key to any investors, and that will increase confidence because you know what your funds are doing at time.
As Nigeria seeks to improve financial inclusion, how can Islamic fintech support the effort of achieving 80% adult inclusion, which is the goal of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy?
Thank you for that good question. I think about technology, fintech, and yes. So embracing new technology has become a necessity to survive rather than a source of competitive advantage. And so for Islamic finance, we just have to start to utilize the fintech to tap into new markets. And like I mentioned, what is Islamic fintech? Fintech, plain English, is digital delivery of Islamic finance products and services to the public. And if you then check the data according to World Bank, I think World Bank put it out there that about 2 billion adults, are unbanked. And they are currently unbanked, and they will now have access to financial solutions just because the fintechs are out there. We've not started seeing it in Nigeria, though we have fintechs, but again, they are not just for Islamic finance. Like I said, Islamic fintech will then be digital delivery of Islamic finance products and services. What are the Islamic finance products and services that you want to be deployed digitally? I mentioned Zakat earlier on, Waqf, Sadaqah as well. The mutual funds that we have as well could be deployed. Crowdfunding, compliant crowdfunding. In the conventional world, you borrow, but you don't tend to know what the borrower is using the funds for. When it comes to Islamic crowdfunding, when it's crowdfunding like that, and you're accessing the funds through the app or whatever means, another digital platform, the issuer tend to know what you're using the funds for, whether you are purchasing an asset or doing otherwise. So it has to be Sharia compliance as well. And then we have peer-to-peer financing tools. And this creates opportunities for individuals and SMEs who require finances, but can't access it just because of the layer and layer of collaterals that conventional banks might have given to them, or even within the Islamic bank as well. Maybe the volume is not just good enough consult an Islamic bank, but through fintechs, Islamic fintechs, they will be able to source the funds. And by and large, all these will involve into economic growth because SMEs, when SMEs are growing, the economy tends to grow because in there is they are large employers of labor. So the economy continues to grow and there is stability in the nation.
Overall, Ifeoluwa, I must tell you that the non-interest finance institutions in Nigeria really need to leverage in fintech, financial technology, in order to deepen the market and for the people who are financially excluded. So, can you give us the projected outlook for Islamic finance in 2021?
So, although there was a significant slowdown in core Islamic finance economies in 2020 due to pandemic, so it's not just the conventional world that was affected, Islamic finance was affected. But 2021 looked quite optimistic. Now, when you look at S&P Global Rating projections that they made on the global Islamic finance, in a way they've said that there will be a strong performance in 2021 of about 11.4% growth compared to what we experienced in 2020. They've projected that about $155 billion USD will be issued in Sukuk, which is higher than 137 thereabout that we saw in 2020, but still lower than what we experienced in 2019. 2019 recorded about 167 thereabout. But again, by and large, in the global world, there is optimistic that Islamic finance is going to grow. When you bring it home in the local space, the signing of the Bukola Act 2020 by the president, in November last year, enables confidence in the existence of Islamic finance. And this shows that Islamic finance has really come to stay. And we just need to embrace it and move on.
Yeah, right.
Another one that would encourage participation or deepen the markets is the Pension Reform Act of 2014 that allows the RSA to invest their Fund 6 in an Islamic way. And that way could spur the growth of more Islamic finance products in the Nigerian markets. And so for us as FBNQuest Asset Management, we are quite optimistic that these regulations would spur more interest in Islamic finance in Nigeria. By extension, it's going to spur growth because Islamic finance, most of the funds are being deployed into the real sector. When you take a clue from the Sukuk that we did, the three issues that we did were targeted towards growth construction. For those that applied through those axes across the 6 geographical areas where those roads have been, we've uploaded the DMA for doing search. And so, you see your funds being channeled towards infrastructure, funds channeled towards sectors that are going to support economy and then stability.
I appreciate your analysis, Ifeoluwa. There is optimistic that the Islamic finance market will grow continuously in this 2021 as it was projected that it will grow by $3.69 billion. So, and you will talk about the Bukola Act, which was signed by the federal government of Nigeria in November 2020. So that really showed confidence in the banking sector. What do you think would be the key development that will shape the market at the global and Nigerian level?
It's just channeling the funds to the real sector. It's going to change Nigeria dramatically. Because when you channel the funds to the health sector, we saw that there was inadequacy within our health sector when we had the pandemic. But when you channel these funds to the health sector, for argument's sake, you see improvements. People do not need to travel far to get attended to medically. And then maybe we'll start seeing medical tourism within the nation again. Because for Islamic finance, we are monitoring. We're not just deploying and not looking back. We are monitoring and ensuring that what the fund is meant to do is what it's meant to do. That is the beauty of Islamic finance. Another one is education. When Osun State did their Sukuk, it was towards education, schools. These are things that would spur the economic growth. You can't start borrowing. When you borrow, then you channel it correctly and appropriately to the sectors that need the funds. And that is what Islamic finance will do. And I've mentioned participation in the fintech world as well. You can't do without technology. Technology is no longer a fancy thing for competitive advantage. No. It's for you to be in the competition yourself and you know, to be ahead of others. If you're not deploying it via digital means, then you'll be left behind. Not everybody will walk into the bricks and mortars again. Everybody wants to do it sharply over their phone and to move on. So that is it. So technology and channeling funds and the way of technology is going to deepen the financial landscape. So we can't still run away from that. It's going to deepen the financial landscape and channel the funds appropriately to the real sector to stay connected.
All right. FBNQuest has been at the forefront of driving activities in the Islamic finance market. Share with us your plans for 2021 as it has to do with the budding IFN market in Nigeria.
Thank you. So as a house, FBNQuest, I'm saying FBNQuest because we have some other subsidiaries that are into Islamic finance world as well, the justice side as well, and the asset management side. And so as a house, we continue to sensitize the public. We continue to demystify the myth around Islamic finance. It's very, very important and crucial for people to believe that it's not just for Muslims, it's meant for everybody. And also, as a house, we are keen on organizing ethical and financial webinars that will help individuals to understand their investment lifestyle and to make wise investment decisions through investing in Islamic projects like Islamic mutual funds, involvement in Waqf endowments, involvement in Sadaqah and Zakat and the likes that you may come across. And so these are things that FBNQuest will be engaging in 2021 for the owner through the sensitization in the market, institution, and again organizing webinars and platforms like yours as well to continue to help us to deepen the market in Islam and its origin.
Thank you very much, Ifeoluwa. From your point of view, deepening technology is very, very important for the non-interest finance institutions in Nigeria, like adoption of technology and creating more awareness, sensitization. All these are vital points you've made on this conversation today. Thank you, Ifeoluwa, for this highly informative discourse on Islamic finance, economic empowerment, and financial inclusion. There was a lot to learn from your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of the day. One of the core areas Islamic finance adopts is the ESG principle of environment, social, and governance, which is highly compliant than the conventional mode of financing. As nations seek to stabilize post-COVID-19, it is imperative for Islamic financial institutions to deepen their awareness on why Sharia-compliant instruments are the best products and opportunities for supporting economies. Also, in the golden decade of 2020 to 2030, regions like Africa have the honors of integrating non-interest finance into their economic plans to access reliable and zero-interest funding that is focused on human capital development, infrastructure investment, poverty reduction, improving financial inclusion, and in overall sustainable development. And that will be all for this edition. To watch more videos and read our news stories on Islamic finance, log on to www.proshareng.com. Follow us on our social media platform displaying on the screen. For questions and comments, send a mail to Bukola Akinyele@proshareng.com. Many thanks for watching. See you next edition, and please stay safe.